Oh man, goddamn, we got a little different setup today with the reactions. We about to start reacting to some other shit, man. We got 10 child molesters reacting to life sentences. Yes, indeed.
Our first stop is in Charlotte, Michigan. We're at the Eaton County Courthouse for the sentencing of Larry Nassar for repeatedly sexually assaulting at least 265 young women and girls under the guise of medical treatment.
That's the guy that was the doctor for like the Michigan State like gymnastics team, and he was just, man, he had like a whole wall, lots of layers of protection before he actually got caught. So that's why he got off so many. But I ain't gonna get into all them details. But yeah.
Margraves, a father of 3 victims, had a couple of things to let off his chest.
I would ask you to, as part of this sentencing, to grant me 5 minutes and lock me in this demon.
Would
you do that?
That is not how
Yes or no?
No, sir, I can't.
Would you give me
that.
1 minute?
You know that I can't do that. That's not how our legal system works.
With all that suppressed anger, Randall Margraves lunges out of the blue into the defendant and is swiftly tackled and brought down by the court officers. As for Larry Nassar, he was sentenced to 40 to 175 years in prison for various sexual abuse charges, to be served after a separate 60-year sentence for child pornography. That means he'll serve at least 100 years in prison, effectively a life sentence. Up next is the Bexar County Courthouse for the arraignment of 23-year-old Christopher Branham, who is facing charges for sexually exposing himself and assaulting a young boy at a San Antonio movie theater restroom. The child, his parents, and 4 siblings were attending a movie, and he returned from the restroom and told his mother of the incident. A prosecutor called the sexual assault of the 7-year-old boy in the restroom of the Rialto Theater, quote, a parent's worst nightmare. During the sentencing of Christopher Branham, the prosecutor also had this to say.
He is just a sexual predator, Your Honor. He has poor impulse control. He uses drugs, he uses alcohol.
Before getting sentenced, the defendant had this to say.
I'd just like to say I'm very sorry. If I could take it back, I would.
Branham pleaded no contest to sexual assault charges as part of the plea agreement that called for a maximum sentence of 35 years in prison. His hairdresser probably deserves 15 years at least also.
Oh, fire squad on the hairdresser? That was random.
Up next is at the Broward County Courthouse, where a 28-year-old former South Florida swim instructor was found guilty of molesting 3 6-year-old girls. Francisco de Aragorn was charged with sexual battery of a child and lewd and lascivious molestation. All 3 of the victims came forward to speak in court, with one of them saying, quote, the lifeguard touched my private part. De Aragorn firmly denied the accusations and said he had no idea why he was there. The disgraced instructor said there might have been an accidental contact when teaching them how to float, which might have been misinterpreted.
The facts in this case show innocence, not guilty. Not that I'm some monster.
What y'all think?
Not that I'm some sort of molester, some secret pedophile.
The defendant said no to a plea deal that would have left him with a 25-year prison term, but instead, he got handed 4 life sentences.
Damn. Yeah, that boy all day.
Christopher Elwell is at Stratford Superior Courthouse for his sentencing. He has been charged with aggravated felonious sexual assault of a 4-year-old girl, a crime that occurred at a Mineral Park residence. The victim came over to a home where Elwell was staying. A 9-year-old and another 4-year-old were also present. The prosecutor said the girls described him showing him videos of sexual acts similar to the ones that the victim had done. Initially, Elwell denied the accusations, but later admitted it was true. That wasn't all he pled guilty to. Elwell also pleaded guilty to failing to register as a sex offender, having been convicted on a different charge in 2008.
The defendant was required to register as a sex offender and had been living at 12 Mineral Park Drive off and on, but more than 5 times a month and had not changed his registration with the Somersworth Police Department.
Moments after he got sentenced, something strange happened. As he sat down on the bench, another convict immediately got up and headbutted him, clearly showing his disdain for sex offenders. Elwell was taken out of the court and sentenced to 7 to 15 years in prison.
Oh, it ain't gonna be fun for him in jail.
We're back again in Florida, where Tampa native Lewis Matthews has been charged with sexual battery on a victim younger than 12, tampering with physical evidence, and 2 felony charges of lewd or lascivious molestation of a victim younger than 12. The 10-year-old told the prosecutor about the night she fell asleep on her living room floor while her mother's boyfriend was visiting, and at about 3:30 a.m., the girl said Matthews woke her up, undressed her, and molested her. Fortunately, he was interrupted when her mother, Matthews' girlfriend, heard a noise, came downstairs, and quickly dialed 911. Matthews quickly grabbed the girl and drove her to a nearby gas station. He ordered the girl to remove her clothing and doused her in bleach in an attempt to remove his DNA.
Is there anything you wish to say? No, man, I thank you for your time and everything.
Blatantly unremorseful for his actions, he's seen chuckling with his attorney on the way out. If I were just handed a life sentence, I'd find it extremely hard even to crack a smile. He was sentenced to life imprisonment with an additional 55 years. We're at the Columbia County Court, where 56-year-old John Acklin has been charged with 16 counts of sexually assaulting 2 children. Acklin kept the same face throughout the trial, from the prosecutor's argument to the impact statement to the sentencing itself.
And I hope that you never see the light of day again. I hope that you're never going to be around any children.
The judge handed down the maximum sentence on each count and sentenced him to 335 years in state prison. Michael Peach appeared in a Trumbull County courtroom for his arraignment after being convicted of 18 charges, including gross sexual imposition, kidnapping, and felonious assault. Peach was a supervisor at a medical billing company where the victim's mother also worked. After using his position to become friendly with the victim, he sexually assaulted the boy and recorded the acts. This is what he had to say for himself.
I can only pray for forgiveness, and that I alone, no matter what sentence I get, I'm going to have to live with for the rest of my life anyway.
Trumbull County Judge Ronald Rice called him a monster, a textbook pedophile, and a predator, and sentenced him to 48 years in prison. We're in DeLand.
Man, they be smacking them boys over the head with them child molestation charges, man. I ain't know they was getting that much for that shit, man. That's more than murder. God damn.
Florida, for a sickening and stomach-turning case. 19-year-old Edwin Wren was charged with raping a 9-month-old baby. The trauma to the baby was so severe, she needed reconstructive surgery. Wren was living with the baby's parents, who sometimes left him to tend to the baby. On that fateful day, he claimed he heard voices telling him to hurt the baby, and blacked out while performing the act.
I was sitting on the couch about to watch a movie, and I heard a voice in my head telling me to do something to her.
Investigators said Wren took steps to hide the crime and get an alibi, and the doctor who examined him testified he's not insane. Wren was immediately sentenced to life in prison without parole and is declared a sexual predator. We're in Miami, Florida, for this resentencing hearing of 24-year-old Ronnie Salazar, who was charged 10 years ago with sexual assault and first-degree murder of his 11-year-old sister. Salazar was initially sentenced to life imprisonment, but the state of Florida recently banned his life sentencing for juvenile killers. Now, he's here hoping to get a lighter sentence. The judge acknowledged Salazar's troubled past, poverty, and parental neglect, something Salazar spoke about himself.
They wouldn't tell me the reason why they left me.
The judge sentenced him to 40 years in prison, and he's to be reviewed after 25 years. This sentencing made Salazar break down in tears, a sign of a remorseful man. We're in the Franklin County Courthouse for the trial of 70-year-old Terry McFadden for sexually abusing 2 children at a daycare ran by his wife. The girls were 4 and 6 years old when they were in the care of Terry McFadden. He was arrested after the Franklin County Children's Services received a report of possible inappropriate sexual contact. Before the judge sentenced him, she gave an emotional speech.
You can't even know what damages you've done for sexual gratification. This, to me, is so mind-boggling that you used and abused 2 little children like they're they're inconsequential.
With what looks like regret on his face, the judge sentences him to 22 years in prison.
I ain't gonna lie, I was expecting like some just outrageous reactions. That's why I clicked on this video. I'm watching this for the first time, so I mean, shit. I was expecting some people to like faint and shit, but I guess that's the video, y'all. Sorry.